The man just took off his pants at the border. A gunshot suddenly came from nearby. He thought it was an attack by smugglers. He hurried back to the car and took out his gun. He aimed and shot. When he approached to check, the other lay on the ground. Not far away, there was an injured wolf. It seemed the other was not shooting at him, afraid of being discovered by others. The man buried the deceased on the mountain. He thought it would remain unnoticed. A few days later, two people went hunting on the mountain. They unexpectedly found a body uncovered by a wolf. Farm manager Pete went to the police station to identify. This was indeed his friend Estrada, who had been missing for days. Estrada was a Mexican smuggler. He had no identity and no job. He met kind-hearted Pete on the farm. The two quickly became close friends. Estrada gave Pete a batch of fine horses. Pete took Estrada to pick up girls. That day Estrada was herding sheep on the farm. He looked up and saw a wolf not far away. He turned and took the gun off his horse. He shot a few times at the wolf. Suddenly gunfire came from a distance. Estrada lay directly on the ground. The shooter was Border Patrol Officer Norton. Young and impulsive, he liked violent law enforcement. When encountering disobedient, illegal immigrants, regardless of gender, he would just go up and beat them. A friend found several shell casings at the scene. These were clearly bullets specialized for Border Patrol. Pete wanted to ask the police for help investigating, but they said it had no value at all. After all, Estrada was just an illegal immigrant. Pete had to start his own investigation. The police were afraid Pete would find out the true murderer. They quietly buried Estrada by the path. Pete was very angry after learning the news. You must have some tricks hidden in this. That day the patrolman found the sheriff to talk. About Estrada's death there must be a unified statement. All this was heard by the hotel owner. The owner is Pete's old flame. That day he told this news to Pete. Pete found the sheriff wanting to get an explanation. The sheriff pretended to know nothing. He drove directly to Norton's doorstep. Waiting until dark, Pete stepped forward and knocked on the door. Before Norton could react, he was pushed to the ground by Pete. Before Norton could get up, the gun's stock hit his head again. Under the threat of Pete's gun, Norton put on his clothes and handcuffs, followed Pete out of the room. After controlling Norton, Pete tied his wife to the sofa. Afraid she would catch a cold, kindly covered him with a blanket. After turning on the TV, Pete brought Norton to Estrada's grave. After handing him a shovel, told him to dig Estrada up again. Norton, who had already experienced Pete's power, was very scared, had no choice but to obediently start digging. Soon dug down to the coffin lid. As soon as he lifted it, Norton directly vomited. After all, this was the second time being buried. Estrada had long since rotted badly. Pete told Norton to carry Estrada out, but the pit was too deep. Before Norton could get the body to the surface, he slipped and was crushed underneath the corpse. Norton carried Estrada to the bed. This was the room where Estrada lived. To let Norton atone well, he not only had to drink water from Estrada's cup, also put on Estrada's usual clothes. Pete poured all 66 kilograms of salt on Estrada, then wrapped him up with a blanket. This was to slow down Estrada's rotting speed, because Estrada had told Pete he had a wife and children in Mexico. If he unfortunately died here, he hoped Pete could let him return to his roots. To show his seriousness, he specially drew a simple map for Pete. Initially thought it was just a joke. Now it has become a reality. Pete plans to keep his promise to his friend, to send Estrada's body back to Mexico. Also going with him is the murderer Norton. To prevent Norton from escaping on the way, Pete made him take off his shoes first. Norton wanted to resist but was heavily punched. Then they rode off on horses. On the way Norton kept complaining. Pete was too lazy to care and just rushed. After a period of driving, they arrived at a steep cliff. One side was a narrow path. The other side was a bottomless cliff. On the road, Estrada's horse suddenly got startled, accidentally slipped, and Estrada's body fell down with the horse. When the two found Estrada again, it was already dark. Estrada's body emitted a continuous stench, making Norton unable to sleep. Seeing Pete sleeping beside him, Norton wanted to quietly get up and sneak away.
Where are you going?
Stinks, man. I can't sleep.
Get back over there where you was at.
Norton pinched his nose and sat back down. Turning his head, he saw ants crawling on Estrada's head. Pete hurried forward to grab, but unfortunately got bitten by an ant. Pete picked up a bottle of wine and poured it on. Then he set Estrada on fire. The rotting body mixed with the smell of wine. Norton almost threw up again. Fortunately, this method is good at removing ants. On the way, they passed by a wooden house. There is an old man who is blind. Pete wanted some salt to continue pickling Estrada, But the old man's home did not have much salt left. In the end, Pete found a jar of expired antifreeze. He let Norton suck it out with his mouth, then poured it into Estrada's body. Norton did not understand Pete's thoughts. He just thought he looked like a madman, torturing himself for a corpse. On the way, Norton began to defend himself, saying that Estrada shot at him first. If he is released now, he will not pursue any matters. Pete still did not respond to him. When passing a sand dune, Pete's horse accidentally fell and trapped Pete underneath it. Norton saw the opportunity come, quickly jumped off the horse and ran out. Pete, who got up, intended to shoot. In the end, he still put away his gun. He did not rush to chase. Instead, he rode the horse slowly forward. Norton gritted his teeth and tore his pants, made a simple shoe for himself, continued to run wildly ahead. Not long after, Norton became exhausted. Pete rode the horse and followed leisurely, just to see how long he could hold on. On the road, they passed a big rock full of small holes. Norton intended to crawl into a small hole to hide. As a result, he accidentally crawled into a snake den. The poisonous snake had no intention of being kind to him, came forward and bit him. Norton soon fainted. A few passing smugglers found him. After giving Norton simple bandaging, said can take him for treatment. Otherwise Norton will die soon. When about to cross a small river, Norton suddenly woke up. He kept shouting, unwilling to move forward. Pete lassoed him with a lasso, then directly dragged him across the river. When arriving at the Mexican village, Norton fainted again. Struggled to reach the small clinic. The female doctor refused to treat Norton, because his nose bridge was broken by Norton. At Pete's sincere request, the female doctor still treated him. Looking at the beautiful scenery of Mexico, while listening to the melodious music, Pete thought of his old lover Rachel in America, called to invite her to elope with him. Rachel was not very willing. Pete was a bit hit hard, could only find his friend Estrada's corpse. This is the only person who won't leave him. After all, even if he wants to leave, he can't. Pete wants to comb his hair. As a result, he pulls down a large bunch of hair. The next day, Norton finally wakes up. The female doctor says she will give him an exam.
Ahora sí estamos a mano, cabrón.
Bored Pete helps to peel the corn. Looking at Norton with a broken nose, the female doctor's mood improves a lot. After that, Pete sets off again with one dead and one injured. Due to the mountain road being too dangerous, the two start to dismount and walk. Pete not only unlocks Norton's handcuffs, but also helps him put on shoes. At this moment, Norton no longer dares to run away. On the way, they encounter a group of people having a picnic. A few of them not only share food with them, but also point out the way forward. Soon after, the two arrive at a small town. There is no village at all, as Estrada said. They also do not know Estrada, this person, but they know the woman in the photo. Unexpectedly, the woman also does not know Estrada. Even more, she is not Estrada's wife. Pete found the old man in the town, also does not know Estrada. Similarly, there is no village that Estrada mentioned. Perhaps all this is fabricated by Estrada. However, Pete did not give up. Holding a simple map, continuously searching. On the way past a ruin, Pete said this is Estrada's village. Estrada once said his home is a garden, so the two tidied up this ruin. Afterward, they buried Estrada under the tree in front. At this moment Estrada can finally rest here. Pete dragged Norton to Estrada's grave, let him confess and apologize to Estrada's photo. Seeing Norton's puzzled face, Pete aimed at the ground and fired the bullet in the gun. Norton feared the howl finally said that overdue words.
I'm sorry! I swear to God, I'm sorry. I swear to God! I swear to God! I did not mean to kill him. That was a mistake.
Pete saw the others sincerely admit fault, silently turned to leave. Norton confessed under the tree all night. The next day Pete told him he could go home. Norton looked incredulous. He always thought Pete would ultimately kill himself for revenge. Clearly that was not what Pete wanted. Looking at Pete's fading figure, Norton thought for a moment and shouted, "You will be okay, right?" At this moment Norton's inner self was redeemed. The time spent with Pete made his heart also become gentle. It's just that we, like him, all do not know where Pete will go. The movie, The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada, ends here. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for more movies.